Hey, everybody. Welcome to Lambeau Field. At least that's where I'm at right now,
Yeah.
following Packers nail biting victory over your Jacksonville Jaguars, Mr. Butler. Boy, that was definitely a nail biter and not the game that any of us expected, was it?
I think that's how it's going to be all year. I think for most people, if you're frustrated with the defense, well, you got to kind of almost get used to it. You should be numb to it by now. But I would guess the special teams is an issue, because you've had a block punt already, and now you get a guy take a 90-yard punt return back. I mean, that kind of stuff can really knock you out of the playoffs and put you in position that you can lose games. But you saw a lot of uncharacteristic things: an interception by Aaron Rodgers, and you saw a fumble by Devontae Adams, two of your best players. So if you really look at the defense, really only gave up 13 points. If they give up 13 points, they'll go to the Super Bowl. So,
Yeah.
and I think the defense is easy for you to pick on because in a way, you really don't want to criticize Rodgers or Devontae because they've been so good. So they've saved you so many times. But you have to give a lot of credit to Jacksonville, Tom. They came out, they played hard, they were very physical.
Yeah. Yep. And they took away the run game. Before we continue, I just want to say anybody who's on LeRoy's Facebook page, feel free to ask us any questions and we will try to get to them. An interesting thing, and I'm going to be writing about this for tomorrow, is that the Packers don't play very well at home. And, more road teams have won this year than home teams. And somehow they need to figure out how to get an advantage here. The weather was bad, and Jacksonville looked like they dealt with it better than the Packers did.
And you think about it, it was windy, very windy. But you also knew that they had three straight 3-and-outs on offense, and they scored on every possession. The only team to do it, and that streak came to a halt today. I think when you look at the records, it makes you frustrated as a Packer fan. You would think you'd beat this team by 50, but when they do beat these bad teams by a lot of points, it seems like the fan base don't really care. It just seems like they only care when it's closer or when they lose. So you got to look at it in perspective that there's really no real dominating defense. This defense is good enough to go to the Super Bowl because all you can do is get a couple stops. But the problem is, your offense, Tom, is part of your defense. So you got to make sure your offense can't have 3-and-outs and you can't have Aaron Jones having under 50 yards rushing.
Yeah. Actually, so we get the Zoom calls with the players, and I actually asked Aaron Rodgers about the home field advantage. What do they do to create it? And he said, well, they need to roll out the barrel and YMCA and have the beer races on the Jumbotron. But maybe there's something to that maybe they need to create all those things somehow that they would normally have at the stadium because they've come out flat the last 2 games.
Well, we're in a pandemic, so things are going to be different.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, you would think that no team really is going to have home field because of the fans. It may be something to that. But at the end of the day, if you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer whether the fans are there or not. You just have to play your game. And I think Zadarius Smith said it, who had a sack today. He said it at the beginning of the season. You got to bring your own juice. So it's like a BYOB at a party. You don't expect them to have alcohol. They'll bring your own, So you got to make sure these guys understand. And, listen, you didn't have Jair Alexander. You didn't have Kevin King. So you knew you were going to play a rookie backup quarterback, 6th-rounder, that you just want to make sure this guy didn't put up big numbers on you. I mean, for the most part, they held DJ Chark, who's a good receiver. They held him in check. Now, Robinson got over 100 yards. But again, they got a turnover, and they did get a couple sacks. And one guy I really want to point out is Rashad Gary. Down the stretch, Tom, you can really see what the coaches see every day. The reason why they're excited about him being an ascending player. So, and one thing I did point out that when they towards the end in that last drive, The Packers looked like they were going to do a 3-man rush, and then they called timeout, and then they went to a 4-man rush, and then they were able to get constant pressure on Luton. And I think that was the difference in the game. Don't let a quarterback just sit back. I don't like these 3-man rushes.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if LaFleur told Patton to do that. I wonder, you know.
Well, that's a good question to ask him. No, don't do that. No. Rush 4.
Yeah, I agree with you. During the game, interestingly, it leaked out that David Bakhtiari had signed a 4-year extension to become the highest paid left tackle in the NFL.
Yeah.
And they finally got that done. It was starting to look kind of questionable. So what do you think?
Well, you had to know they were going to do that. I mean, we have them on our show every day in Milwaukee, on 12:50 a.m. every Tuesday at 4:35, and we asked him those questions. I don't think he really knew, because I think they did it at midnight and late in the night, but the numbers kept going up, and then they were kind of weighing the option, should they franchise tag him, which I think is like $15 million. So it's a big, but if you look at the guys who are getting paid, there was a young man that got paid with the Ravens, like a $98 million deal or whatever.
Yeah, Laramie Tunsil from Houston was the one who set the market with $22 million. Yeah. That really screwed the Packers over, because he isn't that good of he isn't as good as Bakhtiari.
Yeah, but I don't know. You got to pay for your players. If you want to win,
you do.
You got to pay for your players. Invest in your players. So, and he's one of my favorites. So I'm happy for him and his wife, Frankie. So now they can get married next year when the pandemic is over and build their wedding. But I'm just happy he'll be here for 4 years. Now it does, and it was just a question, does that turn your attention to Aaron Jones? It would look like more and more they're trying to sign both of these guys. But if Aaron Jones is not there, you don't have much of a running game.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they'll try to franchise tag him. That'll be a big number for running backs. So they have to figure that one out as well.
Yeah, and every time you do one of these big deals, it means you can't sign somebody else. And so there's going to be guys that are either going to have to be cut or are not going to be able to be re-signed. A Corey Linsley. They're not going to be able to afford Corey Linsley.
Well, that's why they go get Lucas Patrick ready for that position.
Yeah, or Elton Jenkins. They can get him at center as well. So tell me 2 things that impressed you. You already said one, which was Rashawn Gary.
Yes.
And then give me 2 things that concern you from this game.
Well, I'll throw one more in there. MVS was good, because when Devontae Adams went out, he seemed to be the go-to guy. So I was proud of the way MVS played. The things that concern me are stopping the run, because I think Robinson at one point, Tom averaged 5.5 yards a carry. It's hard to win like that. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns called back. It was holding, and had they not done that, then it was some opportunities. And then I would say a consistent pass rush. Now, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Tom. You know me my whole career. You knew me my whole career, right? So I'm not making this up. I really think that I was an average player to Reggie White, Sean Jones, and Gilbert Brown and Santana Dotson.
That's not true, but anyway, go ahead.
You need a pass rush. But I will say this: Dean Lowry changed the game, because he tipped the ball, Tom. If the guy completes that pass, he scores. And that was on the last drive.
Yeah.
He tipped it. And if he does it, it's a different ball game. They may be going in for the winning touchdown, and the Packers got maybe a minute to go down and try to tie or to go ahead. So things like that, you got to throw it in there. But I would tell Packer fans this: there's no dominating defense in the NFC side. You got 1 or 2 Pittsburgh and the Ravens, maybe. Every now and then, Kansas City can play at a high level. So your defense is good enough to get to the Super Bowl. But you got to play a flawless offense. You have to make it. So I would not panic. I would just be happy at 7-2. But the 2 things that worry me could probably be the 2 things that get you excited. It could be, because you're going to get Alan Lazard back. And you would think that they're going to get healthier. Kirksey was back today. It was good to see him in there. So it's a lot of bright spots, but it's just enough negative stuff for you. My wife made me these little foam bricks that you throw at the television.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. And you just kind of throw them when you're upset. Do something like that, because once it hits TV or hits the wall, you're supposed to forget about that play.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to be emotionally out of it.
Yeah. Well, in the live blog, when Davante Adams fumbled that ball, there were guys who wanted to trade him and were ripping him for saying he was the #1 wide receiver.
Well,
and then he scores a touchdown.
Right.
And, everybody's back on his bandwagon again. So that's part of being a fan, That's,
and I give him space to feel that way, because we all feel that way, But Davante had, a couple drops, but they played him well, though. They really did. I mean,
they did that. Rookie CJ Henderson is a heck of a player.
Well. The other team, although they're 1-7, they get paid too. So they played hard. So Doug Marrone, I mean, that group, man, they got something. I would say this, though, if Minshew had played, maybe it's a different story, because there were some open receivers at time and the kid could not connect. But all in all, man, I feel good after a Packer win. I know people going to say, oh, you're just a homer. Maybe I am, but I'm looking at the entire NFC, not so much in a bubble in the NFC North, because we're thinking about Super Bowl. And you're thinking about who can you beat, because you know what Tampa's doing, but then you see what the Saints did to Tampa.
Yeah.
You say, well, Tampa beat us, but then Chicago beat Tampa. You got to play Chicago twice. You saw the Giants just beat Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So it don't be those kind of games. And you just got to lump this one in and get ready for Indianapolis, who's a playoff team. And we'll scout them later on 5 questions. But all in all, I'll let you media guys pick it apart.
And we'll see Davante Adams injured an ankle. He was able to come back, but you know how those things can get tender. So
what about Savage? He went out. Did he come back?
He came back. Yes,
okay,
he came back. He actually played a pretty good game, I thought, today. And then Tyler Irvin went out.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with him. They just have not had their offense all together since week 1. And who knows, that next week they got a chance. Could be. But we'll see about these injuries.
Yeah, and I think that's what LaFleur always talks about, next man up mentality, stuff like that. But I would like to see if they got all their guys back, both starting corners, Lazard back, you get everybody healthy, how good this team really can be. And I think they'll be very good.
Yeah. Yep. Will be interesting to see, but they escaped here one way or another.
I remember not escaping against Minnesota. So, hey.
Yeah.
I feel good about this win, because that Minnesota game could be the one game cost you home field throughout the playoffs.
Right.
So you want the Jacksonville game. And I think that's real quick. I think they learned by that, Tom. You got to persevere and just hold on until the tide turns a little bit, because these scrappy games like this, these games are dangerous in a way, but you're playing a lot of young people. They're playing a lot of young people. You're in a pandemic in this COVID-19 era, so it's just about wins now.
You have to win these games. When you play lousy and beat a bad team, as long as you beat them, that's really what matters. We'll talk more about what that means moving forward, but
we'll get into
today. They're 7-2. So all right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us on LeRoy's Facebook page and on JS Online and Packers News, where this will be this will be archived, so you can go and see it there.
Yep.
And you have some sponsors you want to.
Yeah, I want to thank the Jewelry Center, of course, Dean Murray, Ivanhoe's Pub and Eatery in Racine, and GameDayBrats.com. That's my famous brat. They're so good. And of course, Pick and Save. And I got a recommendation from Butler versus Bullying, a nice book if you want to purchase it for your kids to read. It's a great book. It just talks about the fine line between having fun and bullying somebody. So very happy for Michelle. And then I got one last thing. My brother-in-law's church is doing a turkey and food giveaway. And you can register at www.nlonline.com. The first 25 families that register, we're gonna have a mask on, socially distanced. You just drive your car up. We'll put the food in your trunk, and you can be on your way. You don't even need to stay. I'll just wave and keep it moving. But we want to have so I appreciate Pick and Save and some of the other sponsors on the website to be a part of that. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be back later in the week with 5 questions and X's and O's. And till then, I should say, we'll see you.
Bye-bye.